Welcome to the Out of Your Comfort Zone podcast. On today's episode,
That happened to me. We had a big campus group chat and I asked there were 50 people on it. And I was like, okay, there's 70 people in my program. My roommate asked to be in this group chat and she wasn't.
And this 4-year-old, or I guess he's 5, walks us into 100 Celsius sauna and is just like, let's get started.
We'll be talking to 3 students about all of the scary and spooky moments of study abroad and how they overcame their fears. All right, welcome back to the Out of Your Comfort Zone podcast. Today, we're tackling the elephant in the room for every student considering an international experience, the study abroad scaries, and that's super fitting for October. So we're going to dive into all those worries, fears, and anxieties, and most importantly, hear how our alumni successfully overcame them. I'm your host, Sabrina Small, the marketing coordinator, and I've been in your shoes. I've traveled and I've worked abroad in places like Puerto Rico, Colombia, Chile, and Japan. And I can tell you that my biggest study abroad scary was the thought of going abroad alone. Navigating a new culture and language entirely on my own. But you know what? That initial fear turned out to be the biggest benefit. When I returned from each country, I was more independent, more self-reliant, and hungry to take on even bigger challenges. So now let's meet the brave students who are here to share their stories. To kick us off, each of our alumni will introduce themselves. So amazing alumni, please tell us your name, the country you visited, what program you did, and a fun fact about yourself.
All right, I can start us off. So I'm Benny. I visited Tokyo, Japan on language and culture. And a fun fact about me is I play sports, mainly basketball.
Nice.
I can go next. I'm Scarlett. I studied in Barcelona, Spain, and I studied language and culture there. And a fun fact about me is that my first, middle, and last names are all colors.
My name's Will. I went to Tallinn, Estonia on a diplomacy trip. And a fun fact about me is after my study abroad experience, I went backpacking by myself for a couple of weeks.
By yourself, Will? You see what study abroad does. Where did you go?
I did an exchange in Italy, with my school, and I went and I took trains from Estonia to Italy and stayed with my host family.
Wow, that's really cool.
That's amazing. Yep. So do you feel like your study abroad experience in Tallinn equipped you with the feeling of being learning how to be independent and prepared you for that trip in Italy?
For sure. I think one thing that I think was fairly unique about our program is that we were all in homestays on opposite ends of the city. So I was taking a commuter train basically in an hour and a half every day to get to where we had class and then home before we had to be back. And I feel like I just got really comfortable. I was like, I kind of like being on trains. Let me just get on a bunch more. And that was I think that was helpful. And just having the trust in myself on public transportation.
Yeah, I was in Japan, so I also had a lot of use on trains. And I think my commute in the morning was I think it was an hour-ish, depending on if you caught an express train. And yeah, I didn't like being on them a ton as much as you did, but I just had the experience of trains and especially trying to navigate the Tokyo metro system.
For sure. A lot of my friends in Spain were an hour away usually, and I didn't really have a ton of experience with public transportation. So experiencing that in a real life situation in a totally different country in a totally different language was super cool.
Yeah, same. Because I'm from a small town in Vermont and we don't have any public transportation. So that was my first taste of it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. So in your daily lives at home, do you take transportation? Well, do you take transportation or do you take a car? What does that look like?
I live in the heart of DC, so it's pretty easy for me to get around on public transport. I do drive just because I have been turned by my school friends into the chauffeur for everyone because I have my license. But I think the biggest difference for me was being on public transportation that actually was reliable and worked. Because in Estonia, it's part of like it's free if you're a citizen, and part of your taxes is supporting that system. So it's like super on time. Like everybody takes it because you pay more taxes if you have like more than one car per seats in it, like, and people in your family. So I thought that it was cool being in like a much more reliable public transport system.
Yeah, for me, I grew up in Chicago, so I was very used to that like city, like bustling vibe. But now I live in Madison, Wisconsin, which is like very much more like a walking, biking town. A lot of people drive like cars and like get around that way, and there's a little bit of bus transportation, but like using the metro was something really new for me. I had to get used to like keeping track of the Metro card, and if you lost it, it was like a $60 replacement, which is like big independent like real life responsibility. And I was able to like use that learning about responsibility like back at home. So now it's like keeping extra care of my car key because those are like $100 to replace. Little things like that that like I learned that I took back home.
That's so amazing. And I think that, like I mentioned, like once you go abroad, you find yourself just being independent, more thoughtful, more mindful. So that, yeah, that's amazing. That's really great. So switching gears a little bit, what was something that you were nervous about before your trip? And then how did it pan out once you were abroad?
I can start. I know that these two guys were on language programs and I was not. And I remember like day one, they were like, don't bother learning Estonian because statistically it is the hardest language in the world for an English speaker to learn. So before I getting there, I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like I've got to navigate and I can't, it's the alphabet isn't the same. It's a completely different like part of your diaphragm that you used to speak. And I was like, okay, this is going to be rough. And I was very lucky of where Estonians know that their language is like impossible, and most of them speak like incredible English, so that panned out really well. But in the homestay, it was definitely a bit of a struggle. But I think what was helpful was just like I think the more time you spend with people, you kind of figure out that like we may not be able to communicate on like a perfect basis, but you can kind of like figure it out, which I think was a good skill to have.
For me, I was most nervous about my roommate and my host family. Before you go, you get like a little scripture of like, oh, like this is what your host family's like, and this is what they're like. And this is like the kind of the jobs that they work and where they live and things like that. So you get a little snippet, but it's like completely different when you arrive. I was really lucky because I actually met my roommate on my plane and I didn't know she was my roommate, which was so cool. Um, so I was really nervous. I was like, I just want a good roommate and a great host family. And I got like so blessed. My host family was the best family ever. Um, and there were a lot of things in that little scripture that like they had changed like throughout me before arriving and after arriving. Like they actually had different jobs. Um, their like culture and just like the way that their city had turned you to was different in like a better way. And one of the best experiences that like really tied that all together was going to the beach with them because we had a beach right next to our house and I didn't know that would happen and it just let me bond with my family more and I loved that.
Um, yeah, I guess I wasn't. I mean, I couldn't think of a ton of things I was really nervous about heading into the program, but the one thing that really I remember thinking about a ton and kind of worrying about was the what like host family and what my roommate would be like. Um, but the other thing was is like communicating with them because I wanted to build a bond with the host family that I'd have. Luckily, I did when they send out the email of like who your host family is. It said that their mom was an English teacher, so that was like that meant that they knew some kind of English, which that was like a great sign. And also, I the other stuff that they said it was like the little kid in my host family played basketball and that there was like a basketball court nearby. So that was like some saving graces of when I was like worried about my host family. And then my roommate, I'm sure you guys had the same experience, but did you guys make an Instagram group chat with like all the people on Canvas?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I got my room, I got my host family, and I was asking everyone on Canvas or on what was it called, or on Instagram, whether they had the same room as me or same host family, and none of them had it. So I was so worried about that.
That happened to me. That happened to me. We had a big Canvas group chat, and I asked like, there were like 50 people on it. And I was like, okay, there's like 70 people in my program. Like my roommate asked to be in this group chat, and she wasn't. And like I met her at the last second. But I ended up getting really lucky. Like I just loved her, and I loved my family, and it was just
Yeah, I
really
love
good.
my roommate.
Yeah, I love.
Oh, I love that. Are you still in contact?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm flying down to
Nice.
see him over Halloween.
Wow.
Oh, where is he from, Benny?
He lives in Miami.
Oh, have you ever been?
No, I've never been to Miami, but I've been to Florida to get him out. So
That
should be
is
fun.
awesome. So this is so great because it really highlights the connections that you make while you're on study abroad, not only with your host family, but with the friends that you make, right? So when you study abroad, you are immersing yourself into a new culture, but then you're meeting so many friends from all around the US, right? So you're getting that culture, that kind of immersion too, which is
I
really
even
nice.
had, which is crazy. It's like usually people around the US. I had a friend that was studying abroad from China to Spain. So like even things like that can happen, which was
Yes.
so neat. And she knew Chinese, Spanish, and English, which was like insane. And it was just really cool to like get
Phenomenal.
connection.
I had
So
I had a pretty cool, I think, unique experience of I like there on my commute every morning we would pass by this beach called Riga, which was like the teenage spot or whatever. And I'm waiting for the bus, and I guess something about me screams raging American who's lost. And these pack of Estonian kids are like, "Are you from the US?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And this is like day 2 or 3. And they fully just like adopted me. You're like, how long are you here? You're one of us. And I was like, I'd finished class, and these Estonian kids were like, "Can you and your housemates come to the beach? Can you and your housemates, like, do you guys want to go explore some of these like old buildings that people like from the Soviet era?" And like, I think that was a pretty cool experience of like, I saw a part of the city I definitely wouldn't have seen if like I hadn't been around locals. Like at one point they're like, "Do you guys want to come to a car meet that only like very few of the local population even knew about?" And I think that was a super cool experience for me of like, I was
yeah.
fully thrown into it.
I had something kind of similar with like my host family where, obviously when you travel, you know of all the touristy spots because you can Google them. But what I think is so cool about your host family is that obviously they're local, so they know all of the best spots. And so my host family would be like, oh, don't go to that beach. Like it's a little bit too touristy. This is the one we always go to. It's not crowded and the beach is really beautiful. Or go to this church. I know no one ever really goes to it, but we go to it every Sunday and we love it and it's so beautiful. And they would tell us like based off of weather what areas to go to or what restaurants to go to. So like little things like that are like the things you can't Google. Or if you could Google them, it would take a really long time to find the places that locals actually go to because there's a lot of like propaganda out there. But I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, I had some experiences like that. I would typically come in at like 6, and my host family was okay with me going down to the basketball court locally, and I'd go down there and I'm just like striking up a conversation with some locals, and they speak some English, but you kind of gotta like mix them. It's like Japanglish, like some Japanese, some English, and I mean, I'd just talk to them, and you'd end up like getting music recommendations, places to go, food to eat, stuff like
Yeah.
that. And that was like the best experience. And eventually, like I started seeing them over and over and over, and I just made friends like that way.
Yeah, in our
Nice.
class too, we would have also like assignments to like go around to locals and like ask them questions and like you would actually like get to know even more about it, which was super cool how they like integrated community and like learning the language together.
Yeah, I had the same kind of prompt where they'd tell you to like go around and have a conversation with locals, and they'd give you some prompts to help out. But would you go around with your friends and do it, Scarlett?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you were asking me a question. What did you say? Oh, would I go around with friends?
Yeah, and like do the language thing.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I thought you froze. Yeah, I would. It would be really cool to do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's so silly.
No,
Yeah, no,
I'll do it.
those all language and culture programs do those community conversations because we want you to have that experience with connecting your language speaking, but also getting that culture in, speaking with the locals. So that is amazing. And as you know, you all highlighted kind of the same thing, right? You were kind of scared about your homestays, but it panned out to be the most amazing experience. They gave you the inside scoop on things, right? That other tourists will probably never know, right? And like you said, Scarlett, looking on Google, you really can't tell what is a touristy place or a local place. So you get the inside scoop there. And I always think it's so fascinating when I talk to students and they're like, I don't want to stay with a host family. And I try to tell them, this is like, you're nervous, but this is kind of like one of the most amazing parts because you're integrated into a family who lives there. So if all of you can just tell me one of your favorite experiences with your host family, and it can be actually it can be a favorite experience, something that happened that was kind of scary, embarrassing, and then turned into something amazing. Anything that you choose, but tell me a story about your host family.
Just briefly, like to set the scene, my host family was a single mother and then a very young son named Richard. And is this video or like just audio? Well, I'll show the people on here. This is Richard, and Richard would not leave me alone.
Oh, so cute. You had a little brother.
Richard discovered that he could charge his iPad where I was sleeping and would not, it'd be 2 a.m. and he's like, iPad. And Richard just really took, I had 2 other housemates, so it was a pretty crowded place. And Richard just very much was so happy to be around all of us. And I think this was like, okay, he had this moment of like, I'm going to take them into the sauna. And in Estonia, the way it is, it's a complex with like differing levels, and there's a cold plunge, and it's like you don't play around. And this 4-year-old, or I guess he's 5, walks us into 100 Celsius sauna, and is just like, let's get started. And like, I'm wearing these plastic flip flops that start bubbling, and I was just like, oh, this is not going to end well. But I think that was one of my favorite stories of like, I saw a really cool part of the culture, like of how important people take the sauna. But also like I had like a very young gaze and like an entry point, which was like pretty easy. So that was fun.
Who can say that you're a 5-year-old? My 5-year-old host family brother took me into a sauna. That's a unique experience.
Yeah.
I also have, like really special, memorable experience with my host siblings. My one host sibling, his name was Mateo, and I had my roommate, and she was my age, so she was 16, I was 16. Our host brother was 17, so we were able to bond really well. And compared to everyone else in our family, he also spoke really good English. So like when we were like, help, like like what is she saying? You could be like, don't worry, I got you. But what was so cool about Mateo is that he plays like electrical guitar. So he would play, or he also plays like acoustic guitar, and he would play guitar. And my friend was really good at singing. And I just remember like the best moments, it would be like 11 o'clock at night. We'd all stayed up like chatting, and he would play the guitar and my friend would sing. And I would be like, in the moment, I was like, I know I'm going to miss this so much. Like, it was just one of those moments, like core memories that stays in your brain forever. And just like, we had such a good bond, and I miss him so much. But I had a really good like bond with the 3 of us throughout my trip.
Yeah, some of the favorite moments I can think of with my host family was after I'd get back from either basketball or the activity in the afternoon, me and my roommate, we'd just sit down and talk with the host family, and we'd either play like Roblox, Nintendo, or like a card game with them.
Yeah, so the host family is really an awesome component, and I want to help other students just know that that is, it might be a study abroad scary for you, but once you experience it, it completely changes your what you felt. So that's amazing. Thank you for those stories. So let's jump into a real horror story. Let's hear those study abroad scaries. What is a horror story that you can think about when you were abroad? I know some people talk about culture shock and, going in the wrong door or something funny like that. Does anyone have a really crazy horror story?
I have a really crazy one.
Tell us.
Yeah, so my friends and I love to go to the beach, and sometimes there were beaches in Barcelona that were farther away that you had to take like a metro train. Like there were the metro trains, and then there were like the big trains, and so we would have to take the big trains to go to the beaches farther in Barcelona. And I remember one time it was like, okay, we had to leave at 7:30 to get back for curfew by 9:30, and so we left at that time and we got on the wrong train and we found out halfway through that we were on the way to France. So, yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. Like, it's just like those little mishaps. Like, we were always so confused with the train system. Like, by the end, we got the hang of it. But, like, at one point, we were on the way to France and we were like, oh my God, then we have to get off. And then we have to get on another train and go all the way home. And it was just like, that was crazy. But, yeah.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
I got a pretty bad one also. So I think it was in the first week. Me and my roommate, we got back from shopping. Oh no, we got back from a school. We were on a school visit, and I was playing basketball. And I was like, I brought my basketball shoes because I was all psyched to play some basketball finally against some people, and I put my wallet in the back. Like my backpack was like one of those like closed together ones that you like pull the top on, and then there was like a front zipper pocket. And I put my phone, AirPods, and wallet in the front zipper pocket of it. And then when we were leaving the school about to get on the train, I took my AirPods and phone out and put them in there. And I was like, oh yeah, my wallet's in my backpack. Later on, I was trying to buy some food and I couldn't find my wallet. And turns out I'm pretty sure I got stolen. I mean, I guess I could have lost it. I'm still not 100% sure on it. But yeah, I lost my wallet and it had like all my cash in it, my passport card. So it wasn't my actual passport, so I got lucky. But I had to like go to the Social Security, American Embassy, and like cancel that. I had to report the credit card that I had in there stolen, and it was like I think I had like it was $400 to $500 in my wallet that I got stolen. So that was a pretty bad one, and my mom's like freaking out and stuff.
Yeah, in Barcelona, like pickpocketing is a huge thing. So like literally the first 3 days were like intense pickpocket training. Like you had to like be like the first like at least the first half of my trip, like I was scared to put my backpack on my back because I was worried people are gonna like because it's such a huge thing in Barcelona. And it's so easy to get pickpocketed if you're not careful.
Yeah, I mean Japan, like I'm pretty sure it still is. It's like a pretty safe country, and you would try to wear your backpack on the front of you on the trains. But I'm guessing I just got nabbed by like the one unlucky tourist that got hit by a pickpocket. Because those trains are so packed, it'd be so easy to like slip by someone and take their wallet.
I don't have like nearly as any crazy of this level of horror stories. I think I would probably talk about my experience like getting to and from Tallinn, because Estonia is it's very far from like a major airport hub, and there's like 7 flights a day. And my flight from DC, I flew DC to Germany, Germany to Estonia. I sat on the tarmac for 6 hours on my way to DC, just on the plane, just chilling. I had a 6-hour and 20-minute layover. So I'm hitting a full sprint, cleared EU customs. My shoes are like flying off because I'm wearing Birkenstocks. So I'm carrying my shoes and just training at full speed. I somehow make this flight. My bag doesn't. I land and orientation is in an hour, and they're like, your bag's on the next flight. So then my options are stay here, get my bag that has all of my stuff, because I didn't bring like anything in my backpack. I like just brought what I needed for the red eye. Or my other option was miss orientation, get my bag, or wait for have it to be shipped to me, which would have come a week later. So it was last a week in what I flew in, or miss orientation. And so I got so lucky where one was late to our program and was in the group chat. I was like, I can just get your bag from the airport and I'll meet you at orientation. So that worked out very well, but definitely some.
That's
a big one. Yeah.
That one's pretty big.
Like if that happened to me, no, like it would have not. I would have freaked out.
I kind of just like.
When
kinda
I
went into
travel,
the
I'm like, I need a bath. Like after I get off the plane, I'm like, I need a shower and change my clothes. So that is tough, Will.
both of my parents travel a lot, so like I've kind of whenever I get on a plane, I'm like, okay, something is gonna go wrong. I just got to be ready for what. So I feel like I wasn't probably as stressed out as I should have been, um, but it was all fine in the end.
It's all right. I think this one will be really helpful actually. But I ended up getting an ear infection in Spain, and so went from like cliff jumping, which is crazy. But I always know like when I have like ear infection, so I like felt it, and I touched on my program leader, and she was like, "No problem. Like all you have to do is like we'll go to this doctor together, and you'll get it figured out, and you'll be on your way." And it really did not end up working like that. We went to one doctor who said like, "No, like we can't take any students from CIEE." So we waited there for like an hour to like try to get through, and we didn't. So then we took a train like 30 minutes to a different hospital for us to be the very last patient to be able to go in. And we ended up getting the medicine, but I had to communicate everything in Spanish, like my birth date, what was going on with my ear, like the medications that I needed, and all of that. Like, because no one in that doctor's office spoke English. And when I finally got prescribed, it was like 8:30 at night, and we had started the process at like 4. So it had been like a 4-hour thing to like try to get my ear infection figured out. And so from there, we had to go from pharmacy to find my medication. I think we went to like 10 pharmacies to find my ear
Whoa.
infection medication. But it was so cool because I was able to use the language to like get around, but it was crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is definitely intense.
Yeah.
I mean, slight horror story, but I wouldn't necessarily relate those to like study abroad, but more just like in Estonia horror story of because Estonia is like incredibly far north. And we were there in July, which basically meant the sun wouldn't set. Like we would get to dusk at best of where the sun would start going down at 2 in the morning and start rising at 4. And I was in a room that didn't have blinds. So the first couple of days I just didn't sleep, and I was big fan of Red Bull while I was getting acclimated. I'm still jet lagged. There's just my room's just always light. So I think that like that was a pretty rough acclimation period of like I can't sleep. And I ended up talking to like our head program leader who is an Estonian, and she was like, "You're going to go here and you're going to buy this mask, and you are going to put that thing on, and you are going to put you're going to put your pillow over your head and put your head on the mattress." That's what she did, and I think that was definitely a horror story for me of like I just wasn't sleeping, but we got through it.
Wow, yes, that is. Sleep is so pivotal in life, but wow, that is such an interesting fact about Estonia. So you said it would rise. Tell us
it would
again.
start it would start rising at 4 and it would set at like there'd be a brief period of like slightly dark from like kind of like how Scarlet's window is from like 2 to 3, and then sunrise would start at 4.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think a lot of us here in the US, we do not think about that, right? We know it's going to get dark, we know it's going to get light, and we know at which time. So yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, but
Awesome.
on my last day I had like a 5 a.m. train like leaving, and I was able to like I went out and because our house was like a 20-minute walk from the beach, and I caught the sunrise, and it was incredible. It's like one of my favorite memories of like it's me and all my housemates, and we're like sitting on this rock and we're watching the sunrise together, and we all said goodbye. That was pretty fun.
That is so nice. That's such a good way to end. But that brings me to a really good question. This is a scary study abroad episode, but can everyone tell me their favorite experience while abroad? What is something that you're going to remember when you're 60?
A hard one.
It's a hard
I
question.
for a second.
I'm sure that there's too many to choose, right?
Oh, I
For
have one.
sure.
I have one. Okay, it's like 10 p.m. at night, and my whole host family is on the beach. We have this like picnic blanket set up with like snacks you can think about only getting from Spain. So like little meat bites, these like specific like jamon, which is like ham chips. They were so good. Like these little tiny cookies, and we're just eating and we're like enjoying the weather and talking in Spanish. And you have like this really like aesthetic lighting going on, like surrounding us, and you have the buildings, like the skyrise buildings in the background, and they're all like lit up. And we're on this beach, and all of a sudden my host brother's like, let's go in the water. And so me and my roommate and my host brother, like we all jump up and we like run into the water super fast. And the water like in June in Spain is freezing. So we're running in this water, and then all of a sudden like it's super, super cold. So we all just start splashing each other and like laughing, and like it was just one of those like core memories. Like I'm never gonna like I'm never gonna forget that. It was just so awesome. And then we get out, and the towels in Spain are different. They're not like cotton towels. They're like made of a different fabric. So they're like huge. And my host mom wraps us all in this one big towel. And we take a photo and we're all like squeezed together like this. And it was just
Oh,
one of my biggest core memories. And it's so sad to like think about the fact that like that won't happen again, because that was like my favorite moment ever. But that was one of those moments where I was like, wow, like everything leading up to this was worth it. Like all my Spanish training, my application, like getting into the program, flying here, like all of the scaries like came together into one like blissful, like beautiful moment that I had. I just loved it. Yeah.
I love
I think
that.
I think for me it was probably on like my second like full day in the trip. We had like it was a very easy day of like we'd class for about an hour. We went on a tour of like Holland has a very old town where it's like a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's like incredibly preserved, and it's got these medieval walls that go around the entirety of the old city. And me and a couple of my friends found some staircase that you had to get a ticket to that let you up into the walls, and that's how those ended up being like my two best friends throughout the whole trip. And it's the three of us just walking around the old town, seeing a view from above. At some points, we were seeing people in our program. We were like, you can't get up here. We found this cool spot. And like, that's kind of how we got to know each other. And I think like that is a pretty cool memory of like, where else am I going to have friends that I met inside of a wall of like a former castle going around the old town of Estonia? So that was definitely like one of my favorite moments.
The memories you make abroad are like completely different from any memory you can make anywhere, especially like when you're alone and like without family. The memories are so unique that you can't find anywhere else. And I just think that's the coolest part of the whole program, any program that you do.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. My like I don't know if I could pick out like a favorite moment in general, but I'd say my most like almost life-changing experience I had on the program was the first time in the first like week of the school. So I had like an intro Japanese course down, and I went into the program basically knowing no Japanese. I knew how to like read a little bit, and I started trying to pick it up. Like obviously, I wanted to talk to them somewhat. Like I'm a social person, so I wanted to go talk to the students at the school that we're gonna go visit in like the first week. So first week hits, we visit this school, and this was kind of on the fly. I didn't know what was happening, but they teach us a few phrases, and I'm talking with them in Japanese. I mean, it was mostly English, if we're being honest. I'm talking to them mostly in Japanese. Oh no, mostly in English, and like a little bit of Japanese sprinkled in. And it was like I found that so fun, just talking with people and trying to talk in other languages and just like meeting new people and stuff like that. That after that day for like the rest of the trip, I'd go up to like everyone I could, like everyone that was like didn't look like they're in a rush, and like, just like talk to them in some Japanese, and that made my Japanese improve so much more than everyone else on the program. And then
yeah,
also at the festivals there, that was like the best time to practice because everyone there is to have a good time. And how many times do you meet like an American tourist, like his roommate, and we just like talk with them and stuff.
Wow, so cool. So you feel like your language skills definitely enhanced after your trip.
yeah,
Definitely.
me too. I just got my
Nice.
stamp scores back. So like for language, you take a test before and after. My scores like increased to the point where now I can get the advanced seal of biliteracy, which is going to look like huge on my college apps. And that kind of improvement, you usually have to wait a whole year of Spanish class to get. And I got it in a month, which is like a huge advantage, especially like going back to language class at school. Like just being way above in my peers and like every aspect of a language is just such a cool part of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great stat. And that's a stat that we always try to highlight to our incoming students, that you do learn super fast in that 1 month. And just like you said, Scarlett, you will be ahead of your peers because you have everything condensed, right? You have a host family who's speaking the language. You have your community conversation. So wonderful, wonderful point. And thank you for those stories. So our last question is going to be, if you can talk to all of the incoming students who are going to study abroad next year, what is your top advice?
I would say just have an open mind about anything that could happen. Like, literally, you never know when the next obstacle is going to come up and you're going to struggle with something. So just have a total open mind about what you're going into and don't be afraid to like make friends that like usually wouldn't be like your kind of like vibe of friends. Does that make any sense? Like, usually like, oh, like I hang out with friends who are like funny and like these kinds of friends. Like for me to be able to like expand my social circle and like really get to know people who are like I'm usually like more extroverted, like getting to know more introverted people and like people from different perspectives like really opened me up to so many different cultures and opportunities, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying there because my friend group, at least like here in Vermont, like at my house, is like a bunch of like mainly it's all like sports players, and we all just like kind of mess around in school. I guess like we get good grades, but we just like have some fun because I mean we have kind of poor class schedules, but we like I ended up going there and I made friends of all types of different people, and that just like broadened my horizon on like opportunities and like what other schools and other places have to offer and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I had a really cool moment of like, I have a pretty broad circle of friends here in DC and like kind of am around a mix of people. And one of my housemates was actually from about like 40 minutes away from me in Virginia. And we would stay up all night. We would talk and he was a military kid and had basically moved every year that he had been in the school system. And at the end of the trip, like he just like came in my room and was like, I've never been able to like have a friend, have a relationship with someone as like deep as I've had with you. And like I see him every couple of weeks now. And I think like that was a really cool moment of like what Scarlett was saying, of just like you make friends with people that you would never make friends with at home. And like that can have way more of an impact on somebody else than it can on you. And I think like that was like, I think a super cool moment for me of like, this was a trip for me, but like I had a benefit, like I helped someone else, which was really cool.
That is so cool. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
I got
that's
chills. Like that is
amazing.
crazy.
Yeah, that's so nice.
Yeah,
You
and
have
I
like one of
think
your
that
friends
study
live
abroad
close.
really, sorry, Benny?
Oh, I'm just saying it was so lucky that you had one of your friends like living close to you that you can see and visit
Yeah.
often.
Yeah.
That's true. No, and I think that, it's so nice, right? Because like you said, Scarlett, it's so good to be open-minded, and that will translate, right, for every part of our life, right? Everyone is different, but we all have things that we can learn from each other. So that is something that is so great, and I'm so happy that you all learned that because we are all so valuable. So that's so wonderful. But it was so wonderful to have you all on the Get Out of Your Comfort podcast. I'll give you one last opportunity. If you want to say anything before we head out, you can do that now. But it's been so great to have you all here. All of your experience, your study abroad scaries are going to help other students on their trips abroad this next summer. So thank you again. So one last thing, anything that you all have to say, please share it now.
Just go have fun. Go have fun.
Say,
Yeah. Just have a
say
blast.
yes to everything. You can be tired when you're back home.
Yeah, that's the same kind of thing. You gotta just like do everything you possibly can. You only travel abroad like really once in your lifetime.
Love it. Amazing advice. Well, Scarlett, Benny, and Will, you have been phenomenal guests. Thank you so much and have a great night.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Out of Your Comfort Zone. For more information on high school study abroad programs, visit ciee.org/global navigator.